We are the Happy House Hunters group, and we are going through a series right now of the 6 F's of real estate. And the 6 F's are finding the real estate, funding the real estate, fixing the real estate, then flipping, filling, and finally, what is your freedom number in real estate? And so for this month, we are talking about flipping. And so, Brooke and Nancy, how do you help us flip a piece of real estate by staging? I am so excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so we're gonna hit 3 pretty standard topics as to I think what is the most beneficial reason for staging a listing right now. Do you want us to jump right into that, or do you want like a little bit of a background on our businesses, or?
Well, give me a brief background so we kind of know how you got here, how you ended up doing staging to begin with. And then we're going to finish the program out with Terance, because he's got a great partnership program, and I'm anxious to hear about that. And I have several folks that have tuned in today because I think they're wanting to partner. So we'll see how that works out. So go ahead, Brooke.
Yeah, so just as far as that, I worked for Honda for 10 years, and I had always done a little bit of design and Airbnb investments, and we had flipped our own properties, and we just dabbled here and there in real estate, and I knew that was definitely a passion of mine, was like the design decor side of things. So finally one day after 10 years, I just quit and did it, and little did I know that a month later that COVID would be what it is. And thankfully my business kind of blew up during that time. So there were some stagers not working. I strapped on a mask, put on some gloves, and carried disinfectant, and just powered through. So I've only been in business for about a year and a half, but we're averaging at, I would say 10 to 14 stages a week. Right.
Wow.
A lot of properties right now. And then Nancy.
Yeah, so my actual long-term career was always in telecommunications in the cable industry. And for years, I would stage and help family members and friends get their homes ready to sell. And when downsized after many times, I'm sure many people have been, I finally decided, this is time to take this take it forward. So I did. So I created my company. It's been going into 3 years now, and it's Simply Stage Design. And I not only just do staging, but I also do a bit of the redesign work also. So
okay,
flash, whatever, that type of thing. But a lot of vacant designs and a lot of vacant staging. But I also do I do a little bit of the what we call an occupied stage consultation. But really, my forte is in the vacant staging and dealing with a lot of flipped houses. It just seems to be, it's just a lot of fun. It really is. And that's what we're doing now. So, and I just want to mention too, that I found Brooke, and it was actually on a fluke, because I'm the president this year of RISA in the Columbus chapter. I don't know if you've heard of RISA.
I have.
Association. Well, Brooke is my vice president-elect this year.
Okay.
RISA. So we're your 2 gals for RISA. But we're very proud of that, aren't we?
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah,
super cool pin to have.
Yeah, super cool.
Well, once you're finished with your presentation, put in the chat for us how we can connect with you and how we can connect with RISA.
Absolutely. 1 second, I'm going to turn our volume up. Okay. All right. So the 3 topics that we're planning on hitting today, we'll switch kind of back and forth. But the first one, especially with investment properties, as you're flipping, a lot of us are budget conscious when we do those flips, and there's some blemishes, bumps, those kinds of things that are not cost effective for us to fix before we put that on the market, right? So what we're doing with that is we're distracting the buyer's eye from that when we come in. So there's defects on the walls, flooring uneven, safe but uneven, or even like with the old wavy walls and things like that. We do a lot to disguise those kinds of things. We don't want to hide them, but you're just drawing the buyer's eye kind of away from that.
Right. And when Brooke's talking about the wavy part of the walls in these older homes, the other thing that we can spot though is, and I know a lot of folks get to the point where everything's complete when we come in, but a lot of times you might want to reach out to us before everything's complete, because for instance, something that kind of hides the flaws in those walls, always use a flat paint. Do not ever use an eggshell or anything else. Always use a flat paint. That'll hide it. And then when we come in and put in our artwork, that's going to just, you know, emphasize the beauty of the wall, and they're not going to notice any of those little flaws. Same with the floors. Some folks are putting in new floors. Some are just restoring the flooring. So we do want to highlight that, but there's areas where we will bring in our rugs to anchor the furniture in the room.
Mhm.
And not that we're intentionally trying to hide a flaw.
But there's one under there.
But if there's one there, it could get tucked under that rug. So yeah, so that's kind of, you know, another piece to what we do, to just like Brooke said, draw that eye away from any potential flaws.
And even if you're not flipping a property and just say there's, I don't know if there's any just agents on the call, but you know, sometimes there's at a retail residence where there's a dog living in the house and maybe there was like nail marks on the floor or something like that. I mean, oftentimes we throw a rug over there and they don't see it in inspection, so, but it gets their interest. Like when they come in and they're like, they don't see that first. So the second thing that I wanted to hit with you guys is awkward floor plans. So think about all these houses downtown. You know, if you're not doing a full gut and you're kind of working with what you're working with, you're either, you know, maybe tearing out a wall or two, but maybe you're not. Maybe you're leaving as is. And a lot of the houses, like, you know, Linden area and Hilltop, the smaller ones, you know, you're not getting a full dining room out of. So something that we do is we create a place for people to eat. Because people are looking at three things when they come into a house: where they're going to watch TV, where they're going to eat, and where they're going to sleep. So those are the three things that you really want to create for that buyer to see. And if they don't see a place to eat, they don't envision themselves having family dinner there, and they don't envision having their family in for Christmas and things like that. So I think that making sure that we designate an eating space is extremely important. So
yeah, and so in a lot of the houses that we walk into, you know, whoever has renovated the home has created this open floor plan. So we have just one large room. So we'll separate that from what is going to be the family room, the gathering area, where the TV is going to go. And then in that same space, where is the dining room? So again, we'll separate that with rug in the family room, dining room on its own. But what I've also seen in some of these flips in these older homes, an area like close to the front door that might have been, you know, a sitting area, or might have been a dining room back in the day. And what do? The door opens up into this room. It really isn't big enough for a dining room. So, you know, that's where we'll go to the point where, okay, so what are the demographics? Who's going to buy this house? And what do they want in a house? So, you know, you got your younger generation right now in Columbus that are really moving towards a lot of these homes, and they want conversation areas. They want to be able to have a group of people over where you have people gathering in the kitchen, you have people gathering in the family room, but you also have a separate sitting area where someone else wants to just kind of gather. So kind of a conversational area. So we'll do that. And that brings that eye into the buyer going, wow, I would have never thought about that. That looks so cute. So that's kind of what we're there to do also.
yeah, I mean, I think you're going from one extreme to another. Either you have nothing that you're trying to create, you know, with these tight spaces, or you have a huge space where you're trying to create in those spaces to designate each end of the house or wing or the room or whatever. And then I think kind of our last thing that we wanted to touch on is just creating the homey feel for the buyer, you know, connecting emotionally to the home. When your buyer walks in, they're gonna see that one piece where they're gonna remember that house because of that one piece in the house, or they you know, envision their two daughters moving into the attic and splitting that space, or, you know, they're gonna see something that they're gonna emotionally connect with from there, and they're gonna always remember that one apart from the other listings.
Right, and going back to the demographics, that's why that's so important, because we have to decide, you know, what type of furniture are we going to put into your space. You know, is it going to be mid-century modern? Is it going to be more Soho? Is it going to be, you know, what's it going to be? And what client are you attracting? And again, they need to envision themselves living in this space. So I can tell you that several of the homes that I've done where I've gone towards the more mid-century modern in the Columbus area, they sell very quickly, because that is drawing the eye in of these younger couples. So, it's important that when we get in there, we put the right furniture in that's going to not only complement the home, draw their eye away from any type of minor flaws, but appeal to them as a lifestyle. And can they see that? Those are the houses that they remember when they walk away.
Yeah, that hits it on the head. Yeah, I think those kind of are the three big topics. I know we were kind of trying to stick to a time schedule here. To recap on it, it was creating visions in the homes with the awkward floor plans or open spaces, distracting the buyer's eyes from minor defects, and creating that homey feel for the buyers. So those are kind of the top three reasons that, I think it would be great. Actually, I want to touch on one last thing too, which is kind of a newer development to our business, is right now with as hot as the market is and homes are flying off the market, don't let people tell you that staging doesn't add value to the house.
Right.
People say we don't need to stage it, it's going to sell anyway, but that might be the case. It may, but you have to remember the monetary value that you can add to your listing by staging.
Yes.
So a $1,000 investment or a $1,200 investment, if you can add $5,000 onto your list price because of that, that's where your value's at. You're making, $3,500 and $4,000 in profit just off of having a stager come through.
Right. And I had a client, just give you an example, they did not want to do staging. They just wanted to sell it as is. And they're like, no, let's just list it at this price. And we convinced them that staging will get them more money. Staging actually got them into a bidding war, and they ended up getting almost $20,000 more for the property than what they had first intended to list it at. So, those are the success stories that we really like to hear, because to us, of course, staging is important, but we understand the value that staging will put into that property. And, we're here to help you sell these homes, and that's what we do. And we've got that eye for it. We've been trained to do that. We're certified, and we understand, again, the different demographics and what we need to look at when we go into your home. So, we take pride in that, and we know that it works. It will help sell homes.
Wow, great information, you guys. I really appreciate it. Now, I have a couple of questions where I'm going to pull back the curtain just a second. Where do you keep all this furniture?
Well,
so I have a warehouse in Plain City. My company is based out of Plain City, however,
Okay.
everywhere. But yeah, we just have I'm actually in a smaller space. I'm in about a 1,500 square foot. Because my inventory stays mostly out of houses and I rotate from house to house. I try not to keep a lot in our unit. But yeah, we're just a little warehouse in Plain City.
Yep. Mine's a little warehouse in Delaware up by Lewis Center by Polaris. And it's just about the same size as hers. And we just learned how to keep, again, the inventory rotating from house to house. Sometimes you look at our website and you go, hey, that chair looks familiar. Even though we try to keep it different. But if you would just show up at one of our warehouses, you would see couches stacked side by side by side. And it's actually quite comical, but there is a reason for that. And believe it or not, it's very organized.
It's organized chaos.
Organized chaos. There you go.
Okay. And the second kind of behind the curtain question that I have is, how do you choose your colors? I know you probably have to say somewhat neutral so that it fits in any property, but when you're purchasing furniture for your staging, do you have a particular color palette that you go for?
Personally, I do. I like to stick with white, black, gray, and camel leather. So those are my four, and like some ivories. But yes, I do stay very neutral. Now, I have a really cool 3-piece set of blue couches that I love, and I actually just installed today. And those were just like a little fun, I don't know, a little doodad that we did. But yeah, I think we like to stay with a pretty neutral color palette. And then you can change your color with your pillows and your soft goods, with your blankets and things like that. So a lot of the times, as much as we want to stay neutral, for example, we did one in Westerville today where each room was painted. One had bright blue walls, one had bright green, one like a golden yellow. So luckily we had some pops of color in our warehouse, and we were able to kind of pull accents in to play into those walls so they didn't look as bizarre.
Yeah, and I do typically the same thing. I keep it more gray, white, black, cream, those neutral colors. But now that it's spring, for instance, I staged a home the other day where I actually brought in, and my go-to accent color is always some type of blue. So I was able to bring in navy blue, but then pop in some of that mustard yellow, and it just popped the whole room. It just felt like spring, and it brightened it up. But I can tell you, I had a client the other day that walked in and said, everything looks so gray. And I said, we want to keep to neutral colors because we want to be able to, there is a level of furniture that we're putting in each house also. So I went in, I interchanged and brought in some blue pillows. And then she's like, that looks great. And I didn't do anything but change a pillow. So
that kind of goes back to that emotional connection. You put in some teal pillows on a sofa and someone walks in and they're like, oh, I hate that color. That could ruin the house for them. So that's the reason why we kind of try to keep with,
keep it neutral. Keep it neutral.
The little pops here and there.
I get that. Well, thank you so much. Please put in the chat box how to connect with you, and also just everything that you're doing there, just different connections. So if folks really want to connect, they can. And I'm sure we've got some folks on the call that definitely will, because I recognize many of you that are on the call, and we have several that are in the middle at different stages of flipping, buying, holding, flipping, selling, all over the map. So yeah, I can see the names there. Yeah, we've got all of the folks there that are very active. And so you may be getting some more calls. So thank you so much for being with us. And sit tight. We're going to open it up for questions. Do we have any questions for Brooke or Nancy? And put that in the chat. Yes. Do you have a question? Go ahead.
Kathy, I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents on the staging too. I've been selling houses for about 10 years now. So I've taken a lot of buyers through a lot of properties, and I've heard a lot of comments. Me personally, I like to see a blank slate. I like to imagine where my furniture is going to go and what I'm going to do. I have a very strong imagination, but I've learned from personal experience over the years that actually a lot of buyers don't have a strong imagination. And so it really helps them to see something staged. Especially if it's staged really well, because then you're not only helping them sell the house, sell the home, you're selling them a lifestyle. You're kind of convincing them and showing them, here's what the life you could have if you were living here. I think it drums up some emotions for them and gives them some kind of personal attachment to the property, and that's going to help you bring in more offers and higher offers for sure. I watch a lot of HGTV, a lot of flip shows, and one of my favorite parts is always the decorating and staging part, to see what they're going to do with the space once it's been renovated. So yeah, staging can definitely make a big difference. You guys are doing great work.
Thank you for that.
Perfect. Does anyone else have any questions? This is the first time that I have used the actual Zoom webinar instead of Meetup, so I don't know if I have to ask you to unmute or whether you can unmute yourselves. So if someone can't, please let me know in the chat so that I can go in and maybe unmute you. But if you can, go ahead and unmute if you have any questions. Do we have anyone that has a question?
I've got a question. Have you guys ever done any staging for a property that's going to be rented instead of sold?
Great question.
Yeah, there's a lot of landlords that'll have you do that.
And Airbnbs.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, Airbnbs in a whole other monster.
Yeah, whole other realm of the whole career thing.
Yeah,
Airbnb you get really down and deep into all that. So yeah.
Very, very interesting. Kyle and I just had the conversation. Was it just yesterday? I think it was, about folks that did not have an imagination when they look at some properties as to how they can live in it. So
right.
Yeah. So I get it. Yes, it's great. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question, Kathy.
Sure, go ahead.
Actually goes nicely with your comment about discussing how people can live in something. So we're remodeling.
David, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself first so the rest of the group knows, because it says Tammy when you talk.
I'm Tam. I got a cold. I'm very no. So we're David and Tammy. We do buy and hold rentals. So we have 6 doors right now. And we are remodeling a very tiny little efficiency. So it's going to have a loft that we kind of imagine for sleeping. There's a kitchen in the basement, and then a main floor that's about 180 square feet. It's 180 square feet per floor, so very tiny. So Kathy, your comment about helping somebody imagine how they would live there, yeah, it seems very important as we put this thing on the market. It's still got a ways to go, but I was wondering if you guys had done anything with tiny houses as far as staging those.
Yeah. I do a lot. I do small spaces. I just did one the other day. So yeah, it's just really bringing in the furniture that's actually needed for that space. We'll use a smaller version of the furniture, more apartment size furniture, and just set it up to where they have as many conversation areas that they need. They have some place to sit down and eat. You know, just because it's a small space doesn't mean it can't be, you know, used in the same way a larger space can be used in. We just kind of try to condense it. So, and it is harder for that type of client to go in and look at these spaces, especially a small space, and go, oh my gosh, how am I going to put my couch in here? I don't get it. And sometimes they, you know, I've had clients that have gotten rid of everything and we've brought in all new for them, just to help them out because they could not envision it. So it's very important, especially with those small spaces, to actually have that stage when you're showing it, because that's a very difficult space for people to get their heads around.
All right, thank you.
Yeah,
We may be looking you up in a few months when we're ready to put it on the market.
Yes. Laura Solomon is on as one of our attendees tonight, and she wants to know what are the approximate costs for staging, maybe just a range.
We're muted.
Oh, I think we're unmuted. No, we're good. Yeah, we're good. I would say, depending on, a lot of it depends on how much of the house that you want to have staged.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, my business model is like the trifecta, which is your living room, dining room, and your bedroom. Mm-hmm. And depending on the square footage of that, it could range you, I would say, between like 12 and 15. Do you think that that's?
Yeah, I mean, the average, and something else that we look at is also the luxury level.
Yeah.
So if I'm going into $1 million home and I'm staging the first floor plus the owner's suite, you know, that's going to be a different luxury level. Typically we charge by room, but then we have to bump it up because the type of furniture we're going to put into that $1 million home is not going to be exactly the same type of furniture that we're going to put into a mid-century 850 square foot condo in Columbus. So it does make a difference. The square footage is very important, but also the scale of the furniture is equally as important. So that's why it's so important to have your stager come to the property, walk through, take the photographs, do the measurements, and then come back with that quote. And I can't stress enough, you know, you're going to have stagers that come in and they're going to say, well, I can do that for this amount of money. Always understand that, you know, what you're getting is quality work and a lot of actual hours, work planning that go into staging. And so I'd say that if you were in between the range of, I don't know, $1,200 to, I mean, staging can go up to $3,000, $4,000. It just doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't, you know, there's no pinpoint. But that's pretty much an average. If you looked online and Googled it, it would tell you that the average is $3,000. But again, it's the luxury level. So I would say that if you've got someone coming and going, hey, I can stage that for you for $300, I think I'd be a little cautious.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Great. Any other questions for Brooke or Nancy? Again, thank you so much. Take some time to put your information in the chat for everyone. And we're going to turn it over to Terance. And Terance, I want you to give us, you're on mute, so I'll remind you there to unmute yourself. And I want to, hear a little bit of a background about how you ended up where you are and how you ended up with us this evening, and then tell us what you do for flipping, and then we want to hear about your partnership program.
Sure. Been investing for, well, I started in the military, got out of the military, been investing for about 15 years. I'm Terance Lewis. I have Lewis Helps, which is basically just a partnership program that I created to help individuals get started, the newbies or the individuals that need that push, that accountability to get into real estate investing, need that $30,000 real estate education, but don't have the ticket for that $30,000 real estate education. So I've concocted a really good strategy to allow individuals to come in, partner with me directly, so that we can go in on deals. And it's more derived around a program that's more hands-on. So if you're one of those, I was a D student at best in high school. So for me, once I got a hold of understanding how the cash flow quadrants work, and got a hold of that Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and learned that I can make passive income, that truly drove me to start investing in real estate. And I found out very shortly that I'm actually not dumb. I just didn't really learn that way. So I incorporate that in my training. So we actually do hands-on. So my students or my mentees, they'll come out, partners is what I like to call them. They'll come out and have the opportunity to actually be in these properties with me as we go through things like what we went to today. If any of you guys are following me on IG, you've seen that, we had a break-in yesterday into one of the properties. We had $2,500 worth of stoves and microwaves and refrigerators there. And we had a lot of the equipment from the contractors that were there. We had a $250 microwave in there. And thank God, none of that was stolen. They basically climbed in through a window. It was a duplex. All of the windows actually have bars on them except for one, and that's the one they climbed in. And in order to get to the other side of the duplex, they pretty much went through the wall to climb into the other side. And so I show you guys that it's not all peaches and cream, but we're built and we pray for comfort and discomfort, because it's our job to solve problems. We get paid to solve problems. So it's good to have someone to kind of be there with you as you go through that. So that way you can go move forward as an investor on your own and have that conviction. The first time you're seeing a break-in is not on your property. The first time you deal with concrete issues or foundation issues or roofing issues. I do believe that there's a lot of great programs out there that will teach you like this. They'll teach you through webinars or whatever it may be, but I'm more of a one-on-one, because every single person has a different strategy and they have a different approach of how they need to get into the real estate industry. Because some people may have capital, some people may not have capital, they may have credit, and some people may be starting with just a traditional loan that they have access to for a primary home. So whether you fit any of those scenarios, that's where I step in and try to help those individuals that need that push to kind of move into become an investor and start this and don't want to be left alone to do it. That's what my program is about. So been doing it for a while. I predominantly focus on fix and flips and the BRRRR method, which is buying, rehab, refinance, and repeat. So I'm building rental portfolios through the process of buying properties so cheap that even the banks will refinance it and give me all my money back, because I've increased the value so tremendously in the property. So that is my 30-second elevator pitch. That's what I do. And I'm always happy to share. I'm always on Clubhouse and I'm always on lives, and I love doing events like this because it allows me to spread the message or just help. I don't tell people follow me or do any of that stuff, go to YouTube. I just simply give the information and invest in the people. And if I'm a fit for you, Lewis Helps is where it's at. Yeah.
So I have a question for you. When you're working your numbers to do a flip, what kind of a formula do you use?
Okay, simple. Okay, so for a flip, it's different than now. The very first thing I do before
maybe give us a little idea of both.
Okay, so obviously the very first thing that we established. Sorry for the motorcycle sound. I live on a main street downtown, But first thing I do is establish a criteria, right? We create a plan. We understand what your why is. We understand what you want to do, what your what. I want to fix and flip, or I want to buy and build rental portfolios. And then we create some goals. So that way you can reverse engineer that. There's already statistical data out there that tells us how many offers we have to put in order to accomplish a transaction. We need to start focusing on the actions it takes to find deals instead of looking for a deal, right? So we get organized in that direction. Then we come up with the criteria of exactly what we're looking for. Criteria is super important because it helps us break down what market we're in, what neighborhoods we're in, and all of that derives based on the price point and how much access to money you can get, whether you have business credit that you're accessing and using as a down payment for hard money, or you're using your savings, or you're using your 401k, whatever it is, we've got your price point of where you can afford. So that's going to determine whether you need to be in Linden, whether you need to be in Hilltop, or you can be downtown, right? It just depends on how much money you have access to in conjunction with what you're trying to accomplish, i.e. either cash flow or how much profit you're trying to make on the deal. So once we're organized and we understand that, that is going to tell us everything we need to know about going into this deal, okay? So we go after the money, right? We figure out how much money we need to get access to, and now we know the cost of money, okay? So the cost of money pretty much derives of a few different things, or it's pretty much just the cost of money. So we have to obviously figure out where you're getting money from. So once we figure out the cost of money, the only other two variables to your flip is the after repair value, because everything derives from the after repair value, and the rehab cost, right? And so obviously in your criteria, you figured out what you want to profit from there. So ARV minus your rehab minus what you're trying to make, and your cost to sell equals your purchase price. So I try to simplify.
So you start with the end in mind and go backward.
You go backwards every time. So everything derives from ARV. The first thing anybody's ever going to ask you is what's the ARV? Whether you go to sell a property, whether you go to buy a property, whether you go to wholesale property, whether you go to get lending, everybody wants to know what is the after repair value on that property. The two things you really can never trust someone else with is determining your ARV and determining your repair costs. You have to master those things because that is what makes you money at the end of the day. So I start there. So if I'm trying to do the BRRRR method, I start with the ARV, $100,000. I know the banks will give me 75% of what this house will be worth. So I need to buy it, fix it, and be able to refinance it for less than $75,000, accomplishing the BRRRR, right? If I want to flip it, ARV minus the rehab cost minus the cost to sell it equals the purchase price, right? So yes, we first have to get organized and figure out where you're going, you know what I mean? So we can figure out where and how to accomplish it. If that answers the question.
Yes, very much so. So tell me more about your partner program. How do you choose the folks that you're going to actually work with at this level? Because that's quite a commitment on your part.
Yeah. So it's really a passive approach for the partner that's coming on board. Really, once you get to a point where you're doing volume, that's the key to this program, is that I'm doing volume. I have two properties that I'm sitting on right this very second. I have one on 21st Street, a duplex, 120,000 ARV, 195. I have another property in North Linden, 85,000 ARV, 160. I have to figure out what to do with those today, right? So I have the inventory, right? So that's the key to this, is that the inventory comes to me. I also have the infrastructure, right? What I'm going to be teaching you guys is how to systematize this, because to be honest, Columbus, Ohio may not always be the best market to invest in. You may have to move to Cleveland. You may have to go to Indianapolis. So building that criteria out, the steps of figuring out how to build that criteria start with what are the legs on the market and what's supporting that market, i.e. what's supporting your rental income or what's supporting the ARVs, right? So all of those things put together, and the inventory that I have, along with the amount of properties that I do, allows me to systematize it. I use the same paint colors, I use the same baseboards, I use the same tile, the same backsplash, right? So systematizing those things allows me to have a system in place. So now I don't have to focus on the HGTV approach of let's go pick out countertops and let's go pick out colors. I can focus on my partners and I can I can focus on training my partners. So they don't have a responsibility in this process. I already have the inventory. I already have the contractors. I can focus on the one-on-one attention that we need. And so as long as we're a good fit, I don't need any more bosses, and I don't need, I don't need partners that are going to be problem people, right? I'm looking for those humble, teachable individuals. And so, to be honest, it's an invitational type of a program.
Okay.
And as long as you're coachable, as long as you're coachable, as long as we vibe together, I'm not going to be anything other than me. I'm going to talk like I talk and act like I act, right? So I'm silly. I like to have fun, but we will have that hands-on. We'll be in those properties. We'll be working those on a daily basis together so they get that hands-on piece. And so that's kind of how I pick and choose who can come to this property. If it's a 80-year-old old guy that can't really comprehend what's going on at my level of firing off neurons, we're probably not a good fit for each other. But if they can take a good laugh, we can walk through the properties and they can see this, this contractor. We're throwing fireworks down the what is those that you guys have out here? Groundhog? Is it groundhogs? Yeah, I had the first encounter of a groundhog. I was like, it was running around like a squirrel. I'm like, it's supposed to be in the zoo. Like it was literally going down the sidewalk, right? So I'm like, what is going on right now? This is a animal that should be caged or something, right? So he's throwing fireworks down there. We're having a good time. We're looking at the bright side of the break-in instead of the oh my God, right? Like
now, did they vandalize or take anything at all, or were they just in there?
I think they took some extension cords. They obviously didn't go in there prepared to steal. They could have took the refrigerators, they could have took microwaves, they could have took that little self heater that they use where they fill it up with I don't think it's propane, it's wicker, like oil. I forget what that oil is called, but they use that to heat the property when the heater's not on. There was 2 furnaces, there was copper piping, which is rare. We don't do copper anymore, so there was copper in the. I mean, they could have just took me out.
Did they vandalize anything?
No, they didn't.
Other than going through the wall to get to the other unit.
Going through the wall, they did. They took a couple of extension cords and got it there. So we bunkered down today. I'm obviously leaving this call. I'm going to go over there, make sure that we're bunkered down. We have bars on the whole house. We have barred front doors. We just didn't have the doorknobs on. So we just put the doorknobs on, board that thing up, protect our investment. So we're locked down today.
Yeah. We started putting alarms in on the properties that were vacant. I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah. No, I used to do that as well. I came from Detroit before I came here, and it's so bad. I actually started stealing my own furnaces because when you hire a contractor, all of a sudden the furnace becomes missing, right? And it got to the point where I'm like, you guys need heat, but all of a sudden when the furnace comes missing, then all of a sudden you guys can do work, right? You still just make it happen because you want the money. So I just started snatching my own furnaces out at the beginning of the project as if it was vandalized. And then they just work, and then all of a sudden, voila, it comes back at the end, right, during inspection period. So like I got complacent out here. I got like too complacent. I was doing so many deals. The neighbor, you guys are also friendly out here. I'm from California. Everybody's like, why are you saying hi to me, right? So everybody's so nice here. Everybody's so cool. The ghettos aren't really ghettos, but so it's kind of like.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you guys' ghettos is like, hi, right? My ghettos is like, oh shit, like I came from California, you know what I'm saying? So like it's a little different, but yeah, I'm having fun. I love what I do. I love doing this. And we're taking our lessons, we're turning them into lessons. That's what this is.
Yes.
You have to, even at this stage, you have to take everything that happens to you, and immediately you don't have no time to sit there and think about, woe is me. 10 ways to solve the problem. Give me 10 ways to solve it. I don't want to hear nothing about the issue. I want to hear, how are we going to solve it? How are we going to get through this? Because every second counts.
Right.
I love it.
Go forward.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, questions. Who has questions for Terance? You can post in the chat box or unmute yourself.
I don't think they can unmute.
Can you guys unmute? That's what I'm not sure of, since this is the first time that I have actually used. Do I have to ask you to unmute, or can you unmute yourselves?
I think we have the ability to. don't
I
know,
think so.
and the panelists and
Well,
everybody.
the panel does.
Yes, no, yes, we've got
Everybody
some
does?
folks. Yeah, they can unmute. So go ahead if you have a question for Terance. And in the chat box, they want your info. We'll get him to put that in there before we go.
In the chat. Oh, there's the chat. What's up? What's up? Hey, there you guys are. Put my info in here.
Terance, you probably already mentioned it, but I might have missed it. How long have you been in the Columbus market?
I got here in November. I started doing my due diligence back in June. I made my way from Detroit, and then I was like, Cleveland looks good. So I'm looking at the legs on the market there. Everything looks good. The price points are there. So I look for the cash flow. So I look at the entry point versus the rentals that are able to be had there, so I can see if it meets my cash flow criteria. And sure enough, it meets my criteria. So I'm there, I'm looking for properties. And then I started looking at the Columbus market because I'm just hearing and just word of the grapevine. I come here and I'm like, holy crap, right? I'm just like, this is crazy. So I stopped investing everywhere and I invest 100% here now. I don't invest in any other markets for the time being because in a couple of years, you guys won't have $100,000 houses. So we have the cash flow here. You have it's a mini baby go rush. I've never seen a market like it. There's cash flow here. There's low entry point price points here. There's great construction and plenty, there's the help that's here, the resources that's here. I can order a dumpster on Saturday and it will be there Monday. Like, it's just a beautiful recipe for rehabbing property. So I tell people, everybody that's investing and wants to invest in real estate, you're in the middle of something that I haven't seen in a very, very long time.
You can just say it. You can just say it. Columbus is better than Cleveland.
It's better than Cleveland, and it's a gold rush here, I promise. I don't know who's here that's from Cleveland. I'm from Cali, so I'm neutral, right? I'm just investing. I'm sorry, right? But yeah, no, it's a beautiful market. You can buy 10 houses here and be a millionaire in a year. Like, I don't believe it not to be true. 3 houses just this month. Aberdeen, 70,000, 2,200 square foot house, turned to 4 into a 5, ARV 170. 20th, purchase at 80, 35 rehab, 190 ARV minimum, duplex. I'm sitting on the porch. I'm talking to my contractors. I'm telling the guys, like, I'm obviously you guys feel it too. It's hard to find deals out here, right? Everybody's sucking up everything. I realized, like, who has all the leads? These guys, the people that live here, right? Their brother, their uncle, their friends, their cousin. They're not putting the word out because they don't know. They need incentive, to be incentivized. I tell them $2,500, anybody finds me a house, right? This is what really got them motivated. One of the guys is sitting there filling up the dumpster. The police knock in the door across the alleyway, right? So 20th and then 21st Street. So they're sitting in the alleyway, kicking the door. They go in because the lady, she's just wanting to get into her property. She thinks there's squatters there. The contractor that I just talked to, or one of the workers that I just talked to yesterday, goes over there, meets the lady, talks to her, says, you should sell it to my boss. He's buying houses. She's like, actually, I want to sell it. I was going to list it next week, right? And he's like, let me call him. He calls me up. I'm literally sitting right here. I get up, go over there. Within 45 minutes, we're locked in under contract, like locked up. So and now they're just taking me house after house or sending me house after house. He's like, I don't even want to do this work anymore. I can just find you 2 deals a month. I'm like, you damn right you can, what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, I love it, so
we need to hear this because we're in the Central Ohio area and we live here and we work here and we've seen the market fluctuate in and out in this area. We need to hear somebody else's perspective because we start to think that we're not as lucky as we are.
Oh my gosh.
So we need to hear that perspective. Yes.
Yeah. Especially you guys are here. Oh my God.
Yeah. John Paul wants to know if you're a member of CORE, and it's Central Ohio Real Estate Entrepreneurs, COREE. They meet, I think, once a month as well, maybe the first Tuesday of the month, if I think correctly. John Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they meet, and I don't know if they're meeting up in person yet. We're still on Zoom. We're hoping to get back live. And when we go live, we will then be also doing a Facebook Live on our Facebook and recording that as well. So we'll be both. We'll be virtual and live once we go live again. But anyway, John Paul wanted to know if you were a member of the Central Ohio Real Estate Entrepreneurs.
No, I'm not a member of anything. I did come in and pay my respects. There's a couple players in this space here. This guy Austin, there's a guy John, there's a couple people that I've sat down and had lunch with and said, hey, I'm gonna be in your backyard making noise. So, right, just we can get money together, or I can just come take it. You know what I'm saying? So I pay my respects to those that I feel in this space that we're moving and shaking and we could network together. But I'm literally from 5 a.m. to right now, it's 7 o'clock. I'm still working. I'm still dealing with calls and emails. So a lot of the politics and a lot of the networking I haven't been able to take part of. I'm a volume player. So I try to do minimum 4 to 7 deals a month. So
okay.
I'm usually, especially because I'm just getting established here. So I'm usually either in the streets, dealing with a partner, raising capital. I'm doing one of those others. So I would love, especially because of COVID, I kind of turned my head to that stuff because I do network very, very much so in California. I love to go to mixers and networking events because those of you guys that do this know it's a lonely, I've been by myself all day since 4 o'clock, right?
Okay.
I'm happy to see your faces. Hi, right? Like I don't see you. I see Lowe's and Home Depot people all day and contractors that just want to talk. And I'm like, stop talking and get to work, right? Like you said, talking to me for 45 minutes. So yeah, I definitely want to be a part of those groups when
well, John Paul says that the Mid-Ohio Real Estate Investor Association, they are face-to-face again on the 4th Tuesday at 6 o'clock in Mansfield. So I don't know if you go quite that far north in the Central Ohio area. Do you do anything in the Mansfield area?
I have no clue where Mansfield is at. I have a criteria sheet and I have zip code. So
okay.
I know, what I do know is I'm from California and it takes me 35 minutes to go get my son from school and 35 minutes to get home, and I can go around your whole city. So I'll go anywhere. I'm like, you guys make a big deal about it 25 minutes away. I'm like,
I know.
So,
see, we need your perspective, Terance. We need to hear this.
Like,
yes.
That's why I love, it's like the property's where 25 minutes, I'll be there 22 minutes. Like I'll speed and get there. Like it's
I love nothing.
it. I forget when I fill my gas tank up. I put $72 in my tank. That's 2 days in California. I forgot when I put gas in my car.
I get that.
Hey,
yes,
yeah, but
I love it.
I'm definitely open to just send me the invite. I'll be there.
Yeah, well, for those of us that live in Columbus, we know that Mansfield's not Cleveland. It's a little bit north on your way toward Cleveland, right off of 71.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, Mansfield is my hometown, class of 02.
Yes.
Is it past that mall, the outlet mall?
Yes.
Yeah. It about halfway between here and Cleveland.
Yeah.
Okay, it's in the middle. Why are you guys in the middle? What's in the middle? What's in between here and Cleveland?
Good rest stop.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like,
well, now I'm telling you now, Terance, if you're looking for some deals, Mansfield has some.
Really?
Yes, but again, it's a little bit outside of Columbus, so I'll just mention that.
Nice.
Yeah. John Paul brought it up. Thank you, John Paul. That's a good point. Mansfield does have some good deals. We actually invested in Sandusky, which is right up on Lake Erie, and then we invested in Springfield, which is of course west over by the Dayton area. And so yeah, we're getting outside the Columbus area. So there's some good deals even outside the Columbus area.
So this is super important for everybody that eventually may invest out of state or whatever. This is stuff that you really can't get out of state, which is why I came in the state. Like I literally got a loft in the city. I literally wanted to invest and be here. I go see my kids for a week. I'll come back. It's a really big movement that I'm doing to get embedded here in the city. So being part of this conversation, people that can tell you the little nuances of the smaller towns and the areas, and like that's something you just can't get being a virtual flipper. So I love it. I appreciate all that insight.
Well, we appreciate you being here. And again, I want to open it up for questions. I don't see anything in the question and answer section, so I am going to look
I'm
in the
gonna
chat
start.
box again. If you
Yeah,
can
I'll leave my
unmute
info
yourself, go
and
ahead. If not, let me know in the chat and I'll unmute you. I have a button that just says ask to unmute, but I believe that each of you can unmute yourselves. Can someone unmute yourselves and just let me know that?
We can, Kathy.
Now we can
Thank you.
unmute ourselves.
Good. Thank you. Does anyone
Yeah.
have a question for Terance? He put his connector in the chat box there.
Yeah.
He put his
You
email.
reach out and if anybody wants like the hands-on stuff, I love to have people swing by properties and kind of just chat over a a guy putting up drywall or whatever it is. It's really good to get that insight for people that just kind of do it. So reach out to me on IG and yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Kathy, I'm sorry.
Yes, David.
Yeah, I'm not seeing Terance's contact info in the chat. I don't know if that's.
You know what? Let's look. Sometimes it goes, yeah, it went to the panelist here. We'll fix that. We have an option to do it just to the panelist or to do it to the panelists and the attendees. And so we'll.
Yeah, I'm mainly focused on Instagram because I can't, be everywhere. So if you want to really get in touch with me, Instagram is kind of where it's at. Oh wait, I left the wrong one. Let me that's an at it was underscore. And I think that's the Instagram is a good way to just kind of really get to know who I am because it's raw. Like when I'm with my kids, when I'm in properties, when I'm dealing with the break-in, when I'm buying a new house, when I'm talking about the lead that I got, I do it all active right then and there and try to incorporate everybody with what I do on Instagram. So that's usually the best place to engage and interact with me and just take me for a test run and say like, hey, I really like that guy, I like what he was saying. But there's people that have been following me for a year and they say, hey, like, I got a call today. Like, hey man, I'm ready to go. Like, I want to invest. I'm like, it's like, I'm tired of looking at you do this every day. So I encourage people, to get to know me a little bit through social, and we can have a free consultation if you make an appointment in my bio and we can talk.
Perfect. Perfect. Terance, thank you so much. I was looking so forward to listening to Brooke and Nancy and Terance and just learning something new. And I've learned lots tonight. So thank you so much for coming on board. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Any last questions from anyone for Brooke or Nancy or Terance? We'll let you kind of formulate any questions, last minute questions you might have. And Kyle, I would like for you to introduce yourself and tell the group who you are and your connection to the group.
Oh, did I forget to do that? I'm really bad at talking about myself. Kyle Brandon with Remax Connections. Been doing real estate for about 10 years, and my team leader, Stephanie Jenkins, who recently passed away. She and Kathy I don't know how long you guys knew each other.
Oh gosh, 25 years maybe.
Yeah, so I've known Stephanie 10 years, the entire time I've been licensed. So yeah, we've been working with Kathy and the group, and I've helped Laura and the Tebbins and some others with their purchases and sales. And it's just really exciting to get to meet everybody. You can see everybody on Zoom. The in-person meetings got shut down real quick because of COVID, but we all adapted, and look, now Zoom is born, and Zoom bombers too, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yes, that's why we actually went to the webinar on this one. So you just see the panelists, you don't see all the attendees, but we see that you're there, and we appreciate you attending this evening. This is being recorded, and we will put it in our free site at Kathy Benner International Academy, and that's where you can find all of our past recordings of all of our Zoom meetups. And then we have a small mastermind group where I personally, along with Kyle, and then folks like Terance and Brooke and Nancy, we work even individually with members of the mastermind. If you have any questions or need some hands-on, we call it boots on the ground. So we will work with you as well. So connect with us if you need any help. We all love to help. We're all in this together. and the tide rises all the ships. So thank you everyone for being with us this evening. Kyle put his connection there. I'm going to put mine there so that you guys can, if I can type, so that you guys can actually get a copy of the recording if you'd like.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for being on. And Terance, thank you. Kyle, thank you. And all the attendees, thank you. And
Thank you.
we will see everyone next time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.